What's going on, guys? Super Savage 789 here, bringing you guys another video. And today we're doing War of Naruto on Nagato's Rinnegan, episode 1. In this timeline, Nagato decided to give Naruto his Rinnegan. As he begins to die, he tells Naruto to take his eyes and carry on his will. And with that, he passes on. Naruto is quite reluctant for his eyes to be taken out of his head and get those one in, but Conan tries to convince him. Nagato wouldn't leave his eyes to just anyone. He should take them and avoid any chaos happening to him in the future. While Naruto is reluctant, the Katsuyu chunk on his shoulder reassures him that she'll assist in the surgery, and he really reluctantly agrees. The surgery takes about an hour, with Katsuyu guiding Conan through how to do it. The slug would also inform the people of the leaf of what's up with Naruto's eyes, since him coming back looking like pain might worry the people a bit. As Naruto comes to, his eyes are now that of what Nagato's once were. He can feel the immense power surging through him. It's incredible. Kakashi arrives on the scene and tells Naruto they did a good job, which Naruto thanks him for. Konoha begins to leave, and Naruto asks where she's going. She doesn't have to guard Nagato and Yahiko anymore, so why not come back to the leaf? She considers this, and actually agrees. This is because Nagato's eyes are now in the face of Naruto, and she needs to protect that at all costs. Plus, this way Nagato and Yahiko can be given a proper funeral. The trio all return to the leaf, where everyone begins to celebrate Naruto and his victory. It'd be a bit weird for him to have the Rinnegan and the lady who just attacked the leaf, but definitely nothing to scream and run away about, since this is Naruto, he's the hero of the leaf after all. After this little ceremony, Naruto would see the unconscious Tsunade alongside Konan, Kakashi, Sakura, and Shizune. Konan tells Naruto that one of the Rinnegan's abilities can summon the King of Hell and heal people, which Naruto finds kinda cool. He begins to breathe heavily and concentrates hard. After a couple seconds, he places a hand on the ground, and the King of Hell begins to rise out very weirdly. Everyone is nervous as Konan tells them they need to throw her in for her to heal. While Shizune thinks it's a trick, Naruto can tell she isn't lying, and so he does it. After a couple seconds, a healed up Tsunade exits it, shocked at what just happened. Everyone explains the situation to Tsunade, which she is reluctant about. Since Konan attacked the Leaf Village, she will be put on probation and needs to be accompanied by a strong ninja to stop her trying to betray everyone. Naruto requests this job since Konan has to defend him anyways, and I'm sure Tsunade would agree. Not long after this, a funeral will be held for Yahiko and Nagato, where their bodies are buried in the Leaf Cemetery. Konan just stares at the dirt where they were placed and apologizes to both for getting them caught up in this. It's easy to get caught up in the mistakes of the past, huh? She looks and sees Kakashi, who, for once, doesn't seem to be joking around, quite somber and depressed. He tells her about Rin, Obito, Minato, and Kushina, and how he feels like the reason they're all gone. Konan asks Kakashi how he copes, and he simply shrugs so he doesn't. It eats him up inside, every day. He just has some other people he needs to protect now. And with that thought, he leaves. In the time after this, Konan will be training Naruto to master his Rinnegan abilities. At first it'd be difficult, but gradually he begins to get the hang of all the new techniques he possesses. One thing Naruto learns is that when he uses Shadow Clones, every clone has shared vision, like the past Pain had. That's very useful considering that's his signature technique. Also in this time, Konan and Kakashi strike up quite the friendship, and it does make sense. Everyone they held dear in their life both died, and they can bond through their grief. Konan will be giving the Leaf all the information she has on the Akatsuki and their remaining members. Since she's very high up in the organization, the information gathered is very useful, and tells people about Tobi's 5-minute timer and Kisami's weaknesses. Tobi would be enraged once finding out that Naruto has Nagato's Rinnegan, as his whole plan depended on possessing those eyes, and it isn't like he could just sneak into the Leaf and take it from Naruto. On the plus side, he only has one target for 2 key items, so that's a plus. Danzo is also pretty unhappy at the circumstances. Having Tsunade be healed and awake doesn't go well for him, as he wanted to take the opportunity to become the Hokage. Now he'll just have to continue moving through the shadows to do it. With the Kage summit being called, Tsunade will go to attend with 2 guards. I'll say she takes Konan and Kakashi since they're both mature and powerful shinobi, plus Konan has information about the Akatsuki and how they work, so she can inform the other Kage if need be. She could take Naruto, but his rash nature, as well as I'm going to talk about the Jinchuriki, wouldn't be best for Naruto to attend. While Tsunade is away, Danzo, like the rat he is, will be trying to convince the others to elect him as the Hokage, since he has much more experience than Tsunade ever was. As you can imagine, the Taco would rock up wanting to destroy the Hidden Leaf Village and kill the people responsible for the Uchiha Clan massacre. Tobi tells Sasuke not to be long, and he promises not to, as he raises his hands in the air, beginning to make thunderclouds appear. Clearly, he intends to blow it all up at once. The clouds in the sky become more dark and more violet, which everyone, of course, notices. You'd have to be blind not to. They look in fear as they see lightning begin to form into a type of construct. Naruto quickly enters Sage Mode to check what's going on, and senses Sasuke's chakra as well as the chakra amassing in the sky. It makes him panic as he begins to run as fast as possible, and even begins to fly, albeit a bit clumsily. Sasuke's Kirin forms in the air, right above the Hokage Tower, ready to send it down into the earth, which Naruto won't allow. Right as Sasuke shoots the Kirin down, Naruto fires a chaotic Shinra Tensei upwards at the lightning construct, creating a massive bright light in the sky. When the light dissipates, Naruto lands back on the ground, his clothes a bit ripped as he breathes heavily. Sasuke uses his Sharingan to see Naruto's big and massive chakra, and moves through the shadows to get behind him. He goes to stab Naruto, which he manages to barely react to and duck under. Naruto creates a bunch of shadow clones, telling Sasuke that he won't let him go again. He then begins to fight Sasuke using a bunch of Rasengan's, creating explosions that put Sasuke on edge. He blocks and dodges, but he seemingly can never get a sneak attack off on Naruto. Sasuke asks Naruto why he won't let him kill the guy who caused his clan's death, to which Naruto answers, exclaiming that he'll make him come to justice. Sasuke just needs to come back to them, and they can do it together. This makes Sasuke laugh as he figures out which is the real Naruto and rushes at him with a Chidori. He tells Naruto that he'll never return as he goes to stab Naruto. When his Chidori lands, all the chakra is seemingly ripped out of it, and he just pokes Naruto on the chest, just like, oh, there's your heart, just a little poke. Naruto tells Sasuke that he'll never give up until Sasuke returns. He and his clones all use Ashura Path weapons, sending a barrage of explosions towards the Uchiha. At first, he begins to dodge, but when one of the clones uses Bancho 10 to hold him down, Sasuke takes the barrage of attacks. It leaves him badly damaged, with his clothes ripped and torn. Karin, having sensed all of it, tells Suigetsu and Juga that they need to help, and they both rush in to fight Naruto, but the blonde doesn't give them any attention. He and his clones all raise up their hands towards the members of the Taka, and all fire a Shinra Tensei that hits him so hard they go flying for miles into the distance. Sasuke is so damaged they won't be able to beat Naruto, as all the clones rush at him, using taijutsu to try and beat him up. He activates his Susanoo to try and endure, and uses a Matarasu to burn away everything. It does destroy some of the clones, but with the use of the Praetor Path, all the flames end up getting absorbed. Then, the Narutos place their hands on the Susanoo and absorb it away, allowing the real Naruto to hit Sasuke harder with a Sengon, causing enough damage to knock him out. Meanwhile, over at the summit, Kono will give the other Kage a bunch of information about Toby and what he intends to do. He would appear like normal and ask for the Jinchuriki, which naturally no one would grant. Then he declares the Fourth Great Ninja War and would leave. A declaration that the Jinchuriki be sent to Turtle Island is made like normal, not much really changes there. When returning to the Leaf, Naruto informs Tsunade about what happened, and she is shocked, but glad Naruto managed to handle it. They place Sasuke in ninja prison, and supposedly, that threat has been handled. Naruto brings up how Sasuke mentioned he had came to get revenge on the people responsible for the Uchiha clan massacre, leading them trying to theorize who he could have meant. Conan mentions how Danzo seemed like a pretty corrupt man and was the reason Yahiko died. She also brings up how the King of Hell can be used for interrogation so they can get to the bottom of this. They quickly find Danzo and tell him that he has some answers that they'd like. Naruto then summons the King of Hell, which worries Danzo as he states that if it's really necessary he will. They ask about the Uchiha massacre and Danzo is honest about it, so they learn about all of it. Tsunade decides to also arrest Danzo, which he tried to fight. Conan immediately apprehends him in paper and Tsunade knocks him out. He doesn't get enough time to use Izanagi, unfortunately for him, so he is placed in prison. When Danzo enters the prison, Sasuke would see him enter and takes notice of his Hashirama arm. He sees all the Sharingans he possesses, further annoying the Uchiha as his rage builds behind the bars. That night, while Sasuke is in his cell, Toby appears using Kamui. He tells him they expected better from him, making Sasuke scoff. Naruto is much stronger than he had anticipated, but he'll beat him next time. Toby rips off the chakra suppression tag on Sasuke's body, telling him they should go. Although Sasuke agrees, he tells him that he has one stop before they leave. Sasuke rushes through the prison and finds Danzo in his cell. He tells him that those eyes don't belong to him, annoying Danzo. He mentions how neither are Naruto, but yet they do grant him power. Even if they are stolen, he has no regrets. This angers Sasuke even more as he uses the Chidori to stab Danzo through the head. He coughs up blood as he stares Sasuke in the eyes and dies. Why didn't he use Izanagi? Well, he has a chakra suppression tag on like Sasuke did, so he couldn't. Toby then comes over to Sasuke and the duo escape, where Sasuke gets Itachi's eyes implanted. Meanwhile, Naruto will still be sent to Turtle Island as he's an even bigger target in this timeline. The boat ride over goes the same, as does him meeting Killer Bee and him entering the Waterfall of Truth. Now when Naruto passes this, he continues moving where he's met to take Kurama's chakra. Due to Naruto possessing the Rinnegan, he'd resemble Hagoromo much more, at least to the Nine-Tails. Plus with the strength Naruto showed against Sasuke and Danzo, Kurama would have a lot more respect for Naruto. So when Naruto approaches him, Kurama would be a lot more willing to give him his chakra, though he's going to make Naruto fight for it first. On removing the seal, Kurama immediately attacks Naruto, but Naruto is able to react enough and use the prayer path. He begins to absorb the Nine-Tails chakra in a clever tactic to take his chakra quickly. Naruto then rushes Kurama using a bunch of shadow clones and ends up bombarding him like he originally did. I do think that Naruto still ends up meeting Kushina and learns about the Nine-Tails attack. After that, Kurama would stop fighting Naruto. He gives in and tells Naruto that he'll give him his chakra, which Naruto grins at. And so, Naruto accesses KCM2 immediately. Just like originally, he senses Kisame and Samehada, and then Guy ends up fighting Kisame, leading to him committing suicide and sending intel back to Toby. Kabuto then shows up and kidnaps Yamato for the Zetsu army. Not much goes different there. Meanwhile inside, Big would be trying to teach Naruto to transform into his Biju. Since Kurama is consenting, it works, and he enters the Golden Fox form. He would then learn how to use the Biju Dharma fairly quickly, but he'd be able to expand upon that. He tries to combine his Rinnegan abilities with his regular abilities, and overall make them that much stronger. Over in the war, Konoha would be fighting with the 3rd Division, which is the one led by Kakashi. She'd be fighting against the swordsmen using all her paper attacks. Since she had prep time in the battlefield, she set up traps everywhere, making her quite the useful asset to have in the war. Beyond that though, not much changes until Naruto escapes Turtle Island. The only other change is that Toby doesn't get the Kinkaku Gourd, possessing the Nine-Tails chakra. That is because he doesn't have the Rinnegan, so he can't summon the Gedo Mazo to distract long enough. Naruto begins his escape with Kurama telling Naruto they can feel they're all lying to him. Before Haruka can come out and try to ease Naruto, he'd use a Shinra Tensei and pushes them all out of the way. He then begins to fly past them all, making it out there with relative ease. If you think that the Rinnegan doesn't grant flight, it seems like at least Nagato could make the Tendo Pain fly, so I'm going to say that all the practice Naruto has allowed him to fly. B would catch up to Naruto and the duo break out at Turtle Island. They then begin to rush to the battlefield, but A and Tsunade stand in the way. Although Tsunade agrees they should let them go, A would attack them. With Naruto and KCM2, he'd be sprouting limbs and using the prayer path to absorb the lightning cloaks around A. It just means A has a lot harder time against both Naruto and B due to Naruto's strength. I think they'd still get through, possibly even faster than canon. As they continue moving, they'd end up running into Itachi and Nagato. When seeing Naruto's eyes, Nagato smiles, telling them that he's become quite used to those eyes, clearly. Itachi also comments on Naruto seemingly tamed the Nine-Tails, which makes the Jinchuriki grin, but the Biju inside him scoff. He makes sure to tell Nagato that Conan has survived and is fighting in the war, which I'm sure he'd be glad to hear. Naturally, a fight ensues with Itachi running at Naruto. He'd suppress himself and trade blows with the Uchiha so he can tell him about Sasuke and how he escaped prison and joined Toby. It makes Itachi upset his brother would do something like that, but when Naruto promises to bring him back, it makes him feel much better. Nagato shouts to Naruto that he has a theory about how to take down the Edo Tensei soldiers. The Rinnegan has an ability to steal souls, so he should attempt to use that. Believing this to be a good idea, Naruto attempts it. He uses Bancho Tenin to pull Nagato close and rips out his soul, watching as his zombie body crumbles into paper. Clearly, this technique is extremely effective. He turns towards Itachi to do the same, but the crow crawls out of Naruto's mouth and casts Koto Matsukami on Itachi. He leaves to stop Kabuto, while Naruto and B continue moving. Elsewhere, Naruto clones keep landing on every battlefront and begin to take down Zetsu's shoulders. It means that the fight with the 3rd Right Kage goes much easier for Naruto due to his strength. He uses the prayer path to absorb the chakra cloak from the 3rd's body, which leaves an opening for Temari and her wind release users to attack. It breaks his body enough to allow Naruto to get him off guard and rip out his soul. This is because Temari, after all, is universal. He moves to go help Gaara against Gengetsu, which goes much better for them. He's able to stop the steam imp much easier and speed blitz the Kage by ripping out his soul. Madara then be brought to the battlefield, and while Naruto is able to save many more lives, the end result is still the same, and the clones poof away to let the Kage fight. When Naruto and B run into Toby, it'd be a much different interaction. Since Toby doesn't have the Rinnegan, he'd be at a much bigger disadvantage against both Naruto and B. So to try and fight him off, he'd be relying on using Wood Release. This is able to help subdue the Nine-Tails chakra that Naruto has, however that isn't everything he possesses now. Plus, B is there to help in case Naruto gets caught in a Wood Release attack, and vice versa. Kakashi, Konan, and Guy arrive and begin to help fight against the masked man. Since they can't touch him, Kakashi uses Kamui and realizes that they share the same dimension. He sends Naruto through it and destroys the mask, revealing Obito like normal. Madara would arrive on the scene where he sees Naruto's Rinnegan. Annoyed, Madara asks Obito what the hell happened, and he confesses that Nagato's betrayal went further than they thought. They'll have to take it back together. That's when Obito feels his soul beginning to be taken from his body. He looks at the zombified Madara, who tells Obito that he doesn't need him anymore then. Before he can escape, Madara rips out his soul and kills him. Madara approaches the others and tells them they can just revive him and give up. He'll spare them. Naruto just grits his teeth as he shouts that he'll never let that happen. He fires his Shinra Tensei at Madara, who just fires his own, creating an air pressure that's hard to endure for everyone around. Naruto attacks Madara using his Kyuubi avatar, who creates his perfect Susanoo, clashing with the fox. He tells Naruto that he had strength to rival that of the full Kurama, so what makes him think that he has any chance now? In response, Naruto shouts that he has people depending on him. He points Kurama's hands to the ground and unleashes a powerful Shinra Tensei, causing the duo to both collapse and everyone else to begin trying to keep their footing. Naruto flies above Madara and looks down at him like a god posing judgment. He tells Madara that his eyes were given to him by his sibling student, and they'll be the ones to defeat him. Madara laughs maniacally as he loudly shouts to bring it. Naruto and Madara continue going back and forth in a Rinnegan power battle. Although Madara isn't exactly going all out, he's definitely impressed at the strength demonstrated by the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. It feels like when he fought Hashirama for some strange reason. With Kakashi and Guy backing up Naruto, the three all make a charge towards him, using things like Kamui and the 7th Gate to try and take him off guard. Naruto leaps off of Gyuki and activates his Kurama avatar, flying through the air towards Madara. He creates a Bijudama and launches it with his Shinra Tensei, hitting Madara hard in a big explosion. They all know this won't finish Madara off, but it'll do enough damage to where Naruto will be able to remove his soul without any hassle. Naruto leaps down back in his base form as he prepares to rip out Madara's soul. Everyone watches as he falls quicker and quicker, his hand held out. As he seemingly gets a couple inches away, from the smoke a Susanoo blade flies out, stabbing Naruto in the gut. Madara thanks Naruto for such a great match, but he'd like those eyes back now. Naruto tries to fight back, but falls unconscious. Black Zetsu latches onto Naruto's body and begins to make it try and weave the sign for the Rinne Tensei. Before the fingers can touch, Naruto's eyes open, but with red pupils in the Rinnegan, his whiskers looking more and more feral. Kurama channels all the power he can to briefly take control and use the strongest Shinra Tensei he can blow, back Zetsu off Naruto, as well as fling Naruto in the air before the body ultimately passes out again. Madara goes back to grab Naruto in the air when paper begins to cover him and makes him fly away quickly. Konan appears with her paper wings and flies with Naruto as the allied shinobi forces all arrive to fight back. Konan takes Naruto to Sakura, who begins to do her best to keep him alive. He does have a massive hole in his gut, and although he's healing quickly than most, this wound is still pretty fatal. So Sakura works as hard as possible to keep him alive and let that healing factor take the reins. Now with an entire army to fight, Madara activates his full Susanoo and shouts that they should bring it. Shikaku would think of a strategy and transmits it to everyone, but they all work together to pin down the Susanoo, similar to how they held down the Jubi for a brief moment in canon. Madara would be able to break out, however, and would use the Meteor technique to take out the Shinobi Alliance headquarters and kill Shikaku and Inoichi. With no other option, Kakashi gets the idea and tells Guy and Konan to hold Madara in place. Using paper and the strength of the 7th Gate, they try and hold Madara, allowing Kakashi to use Kamui on him. As he sucks in Madara, he would be sucked out just as quickly by Black Zetsu, using Obito's body as a temporary puppet. Madara laughs at that pathetic attempt to take him down, to hide him away and wait for them to get strong enough to beat him. Truly the coward's way to battle. He shouts that if Kakashi chooses to be a coward, then he can die a coward's death. He fires a massive fire jutsu at Kakashi, and when the smoke clears, the Kopuo ninja is completely gone. They all think the worst until they see Kakashi and Edo Tensei Minato standing not far away from the blast. As the other Kage arrive, Madara laughs at the challenge. He tells them that if he was alive, his blood would be bubbling with anticipation, but alas, he can't. How about giving him the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki and really make this fight interesting? Just then, however, a shout of Rasen Shuriken can be heard as it is thrown at Madara at breakneck speeds, cutting off his right arm. Naruto stands there in Six-Path Sage mode, telling Madara that if he wants him, he can have him. Naruto flies at Madara and begins to easily demolish him. Everyone watches in awe as Naruto and the 4 Hokage all fight together against Madara. Sasuke is pretty shaken up at Naruto's strength and realizes that he'll need to prepare a strategy if he plans to kill him. Hiruzen prepares a strategy and tells the others about it, who would all begin to help. They all rush around Madara, using Tobirama and Minato as flying Raijin users. With this, it allows Hashirama to prepare a powerful wood-release attack, which he pins Madara down with. He laughs that this is child's play and that he expected better from him. Naruto then arrives and grabs Madara's soul, telling him they need to shut up and go back to his era. He rips out his soul and watches as Madara crumbles away. The day is saved and he can rest easy. As Minato begins to crumble away, he gives Naruto his half of Kurama and tells him that he leaves everything to him now. They have an emotional goodbye like normal before the worst part arrives. Sai and Kakashi arrive and tell Naruto that Sasuke has kidnapped Sakura. If anyone else goes other than Naruto, he'll kill her. So Naruto enters Sage Mode and after sensing where Sasuke is, flies to the valley they enter fight. When Sasuke knows Naruto is alone, he hits Sakura with a genjutsu that knocks her out. He shouts to Naruto that he'll kill him, and take those Rinnegan out of his skull so that he has the power to make his utopia. Naruto enters 6-path Sage Mode and tells Sasuke that he doesn't want to fight him, but he will if he must. Sasuke and Naruto begin battle, where it's clear Naruto has the advantage. Everything Sasuke throws at Naruto, he easily just counters. The Amaterasu can just be absorbed, the Kirin deflected, the Chidori countered. Ultimately, Sasuke's screwed. Naruto tells Sasuke that he'll stop him and creates a Rasengan. He then uses Bansho Tenin to pull Sasuke into it, causing lots of damage on the Uchiha, making him fall down into the water below. As Naruto looks down below upset, he begins to walk away. That is until the war explodes off of Sasuke. He sports his new Rinnegan, telling Naruto that he doesn't need to kill him for his Rinnegan now. Now he'll just do it for fun. Sasuke and Naruto begin the final battle. Although Sasuke got an amp in power, Naruto has much more experience with a Rinnegan, and has techniques that can play off his Rinnegan. He would manage to beat Sasuke down, leading to the iconic Chidori Rasengan clash. Since Naruto has enough chakra, he uses Shinra Tensei to slow Sasuke's momentum enough to land a hard Rasengan on him, finishing off the battle. At least they both kept their arms though. Then Naruto gives Sasuke the Talk no Jutsu, and he comes back to the side of good, just like that. With the war ending now, the life returns back to normal as canon realigns. There were some slight differences. Kakashi still possesses his Sharingan, and would become Hokage not long after the war. He and Conan will continue their relationship, and will be dating after a year or so. And the unit of gate users that we see in the last would be led by Might Guy, since he was never put in a wheelchair, meaning that there would be ultimately more people in the unit, since Guy can teach them. After 2 years, the events of the last would arrive, and the majority goes the same, since having magic eyes and 2 arms doesn't change much. The only difference is in the final battle, where Naruto and Toneri have their fight. With the use of the Rinnegan and 6-path Sage Mode, Naruto absolutely demolishes the Otsutsuki, and takes him down minutes earlier. Beyond that though, not much changes for that movie. In the time after this, Kakashi and Conan marry, with Might Guy being the Copy Wheel Ninja's best man. He'd probably also quit being Hokage, so Naruto would become Hokage much quicker. Boruto and Himawari are stillborn, and Naruto and Hinata marry. Kakashi and Conan also have a kid, a little boy who will call Nagazuna, a name pun based off Sakumo and Nagato. And that's one of it. Make sure to like and subscribe and comment below what my next video is going to be. This series is really fun to write, so, let me know what you thought of it. And if you want me to go into Boruto, 50 likes, and I might. And yeah, bye!